Oklahoma, Auburn, the matchup we've all been waiting for as the Auburn Tigers come to Norman and Jackson Arnold makes his return. It's a crossover edition here on Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Sure is. It is a crossover edition. Welcome to the Locked On Crossover. Oklahoma, Locked On Sooners, Locked On Auburn. Thank you all for joining us today. Shout out to all our everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. That's John Williams over there from Locked On Sooners. You can follow him at John9Williams. We got Zach Blackerby from Locked On Auburn. Follow him at Z Blackerby. And of course, I'm Jay Smith, Locked On Sooners at Unfair Sports. Follow us. And we've got some fun stuff to talk about. We've got the return of Jackson Arnold. We're going to give our final predictions to wrap up the show. We'll talk about the keys to the game on both sides. But is this like a new rivalry that's built up?
I don't know about rivalry, but I'm not sure if y'all have heard this, but Jackson Arnold used to play at Oklahoma. And now he's going back to Oklahoma. I don't know if y'all have missed that, but goodness gracious, the storylines around this one are absolutely tremendous, with John Mateer and his incredibly strong start to the season and Heisman buzz, and then obviously everything that goes along with Jackson Arnold returning home. This is going to be an awesome one for sure.
Yeah, as much as the coaches want to try to take the emotion out of it, they're all just talking about it's about the name on the front, not the name on the back. I mean, that's not exactly what they're saying, but that's what they're trying to say. Sure. And it is. I mean, it really is. It's about Oklahoma versus Auburn. It's about two teams that played a really tight ball game last year, two teams that think that they're better than what they were a year ago. And yes, Jackson Arnold's a part of that. And so much of how Oklahoma wins this game depends on how well they contain Jackson Arnold in the run game in particular. But it's bigger than that. There's a lot of talent on both sides of the football that go beyond just the quarterbacks.
Yeah. And I'm sure we're going to talk about specific things, but like obviously all the attention is on both of these quarterbacks, Mateer and Arnold. But to me, the most important individual matchup in this game, in my opinion, Auburn's offensive line versus this Oklahoma defensive line that has really shocked the conference. I mean, statistically, they've done a lot of impressive things up front, and if we can be specific and say the front seven if you guys want to. But to me, whoever wins that battle, I think wins this football game.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm seeing and noticing as well, is that the Auburn runs the ball a lot. So far this season, Auburn is sitting here with 726 rushing yards. Oklahoma's not giving up. They've given up an average of under 100 yards per game. So that's going to be a massive battle in that. While also Auburn's defense, they're not giving up very many rushing yards as well. Total of 201 yards so far this season, roughly 70-something per game. And Oklahoma is still trying to figure out their running game. So I guess the big question is, how effective do you think, we'll start with you, Zach, how effective do you think Jackson Arnold's going to be in his running game on top of the pass going into this one?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the plan. Auburn hasn't played a team that has tried to stop the run yet. Auburn went out and spent all this money on Jackson Arnold and these elite wide receivers. They've got arguably the best receiver room on paper in the SEC, and we've seen glimpses of it, right? But all of these defenses, despite Auburn having the success that you mentioned on the run there, Jay, it's been the game plan has still been, hey, we don't want these receivers to beat us. I think Oklahoma's approach is going to be different. I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on that. But that's what the Hugh Freeze offense does. I mean, you guys run some RPO stuff at Oklahoma too. Like, you take what the defense gives you. And so far, the defense has said, hey, we're going to keep the box light. And Auburn's taken advantage of that. Does that change on Saturday? Do we see more targets to Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton? Malcolm Simmons is expected to return. Horatio Fields has been an incredible surprise. I'm fascinated to see how Oklahoma chooses to attack Auburn when Auburn has the football.
To me, it's going to come down to that, because I think that Oklahoma is not going to get out of what they do best, and that's stop the run. They're going to want to stop the run first. and then force Auburn to be in some second and long, third and long situations where it's going to put Jackson Arnold having to drop back and make a throw. That's where they want him to live. If that means adding an extra guy to the box in early downs and letting your guys on the outside be one-on-one with Cam Coleman, with Eric Singleton, they might risk that early in this game just to see how well their cornerbacks are going to hold up. They don't want to get beat in the run game. They don't want this to be a repeat of Oklahoma versus Alabama in 2024 or Vandy versus Alabama, where it's, hey, we're going to run the ball 40 times. We're going to take the air out of the football and keep control of the clock. No, they want this game to be a situation where Jackson's going to have to throw it. If you make him throw it, Oklahoma's going to like their chances in the long run. Will that happen? That's going to be the biggest key because Auburn's really good up front. They run the ball really effectively. Jackson Arnold's a good running quarterback. The +1 run game is going to be the key. Oklahoma's been good at defending it at times here and there. Michigan didn't really try to utilize Bryce Underwood's legs a whole lot in that game, but when they did, Oklahoma was ready for it and they dropped him for loss on a number of occasions. So much comes down to, can they prevent Jackson Arnold from beating him with his legs or beating them with his legs? If they do that, it'll put them in a better position to defend him.
Let me ask you guys this, because statistically, Oklahoma's defensive stats are elite. I don't want to take anything away from Oklahoma. And I want to be very clear. I think they're deserving all the hype that they're getting. But with this game against Michigan, I mean, do we know that Michigan is good offensively? Like, do we know that? And then the other two games were against, far inferior opponents where it's like, does that matter in this game? So I just want to ask y'all's opinion on, sure, you shut down Michigan offensively, but I think Michigan's quarterback is going to be elite. I don't think he's elite, in his second game ever and his first road start. Where are y'all on this?
I think Michigan's offense is good. I think they came into that game understanding that we don't want to put it in Bryce Underwood's hands as often as we need to try to go to win the game if we get behind, because it doesn't set him up for success. His first road start in a hostile environment, that's not going to be a recipe for his development to actually be a positive thing, kind of like what we've seen with Jackson Arnold last year. Not great circumstances to try to develop with him, and the coaching staff didn't try to adjust anything to help support him a little bit. I think they came into that understanding like, hey, we're going to have a hard time. We're going to try and run the ball. We're going to try and do what we can to not put it all on our true freshman quarterback in his second road start. But I do think that Oklahoma's defense reiterated that plan. It's like, maybe they were going to try and throw the ball a little bit, but Oklahoma didn't really allow for them to have much success. Yeah. And so they realized, okay, we got to make this a conservative game plan for Bryce.
Yeah, if you look at the average for Michigan outside of Oklahoma in their, cupcake games, they're averaging roughly 40-something points per game. They're also putting up roughly almost 500 yards per game when they're not playing Oklahoma. And I say that because you can do that comparison with other teams as well. Look at the cupcake games. Look at how those teams actually perform when they don't play that team, and then how they perform when they play them. And so to me, I think Michigan's going to be a good team long term. The Central Michigan game was very much a cupcake, and it looked like a cupcake. They just dominated them front and center, and I think that that's kind of where the difference comes in. That Michigan offensive line, to me, is still good. They ran for 381 yards on Central Michigan. You're supposed to do that. That's one of those that you're supposed to do.
I mean, my thing is, like, who cares, though? Like, who cares what you do, what Michigan does against, Central Michigan? I mean, the talk about Georgia was how they played with their food the first 2 weeks, and then they win one of the most exciting games of the college football season against Tennessee. And I think we all agree that Tennessee has a chance to be a playoff team based on what we've seen so far. So who cares? Who cares about those games,
I think everyone should. And the reason is because the one knock we had on Michigan when it came to playing their food is that their defense did not look like their usual self. It did not look like your usual self against Tennessee. So they did not get better when they played Tennessee. Their offense just stepped up in that game. So that to me is something that's a good indication of what your defense could potentially be, like the peak. To me, if they had found a way to slow down Tennessee like they have done every other year, even with Heupel there, they found ways to slow them down. They could not slow down that Tennessee defense. And so that's why I point out those non-cons, because even when you're playing with your food, if you are still able to achieve the level that the expectation or even the ceiling is close to your ceiling, that's typically an indication of what the season's going to look like.
I mean, I look at this, Zach,
Maybe.
and
I don't know if I agree with that.
I look at this and I think Auburn is the best offense that Oklahoma is going to play yet this season. Okay?
Sure.
This is their biggest test. Two of the best wide receivers in college football against a secondary that hasn't really been tested significantly yet. Jackson Arnold's a much more experienced quarterback than Bryce Underwood is at this point in their careers.
Sure.
Jackson Arnold, I am the biggest Jackson Arnold truther that you will find in college football circles, Auburn fans included. You can go back and find some of our stuff from last year.
Yeah.
He's got some limitations. However, and on this, before we get to the next thing, Oklahoma's defense will be the best defense that Auburn has faced yet this year.
And it might be the best defense they play at all this season.
Yeah, Baylor cannot.
We got to see how Georgia and Alabama develop, but it could be the best defense that they play this season.
And so I think there's still a lot of unknowns for both teams in this game, but I do think this is going to be one where both teams are going to get out of what they do best at times because they're going to be tested and challenged in ways they haven't been challenged yet this year.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, well, let's dive into the keys to the game on both sides of both teams for Auburn and Oklahoma. Next on this crossover edition of Locked On Sports. It's almost the weekend and time to look back and crown this week's MVP. Who delivered? Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks. Oh, interesting. Saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it matters most. Let's break it down for the Sooners. Tory Blaylock, that he delivered in a big way, especially that, what was it, that 16-yard touchdown run that he had on the outside, bounced out, boom, and was gone. Yeah, when the pressure was on, Tory Blaylock came through. No hesitation, no delay, and if you've been watching week after week, his performance really wasn't a fluke. Tory Blaylock is now RB1, and he is on a streak. And just like Tory Blaylock delivered for the Sooners, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. You can save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Like right now, for me, I'm looking at this Oklahoma and Auburn game, and it appears that the Sooners are weighing in heavily at a 6.5-point favorite. That may balloon up a little bit more by game time, but the good thing is FanDuel makes it very easy to do it. It's quick, easy, best way to get a little bit more energy going for that Saturday game as well as those Sunday NFL slates. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And thanks again for joining us here on the Locked On Crossover episode. Shout out to all of our everydayers out there. Let's talk about both keys to victory. Now, we both just talked about how defenses can potentially be good, depending on who they play. Zach doesn't agree with me of the peaks or whatnot within your non-con, which I understand. It's all based upon the numbers.
The transitive wins and transitive properties in college football is the biggest myth in sports.
It
can be. I agree. Transitive property is definitely that.
Right,
but
right in front of quarterback wins. Okay.
Yeah, right in front of quarterback wins.
That quarterback wins are not a stat.
They are not.
I disagree there. I think that's the guy who touches the ball every play.
Yeah. Okay. So, and Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer because a quarterback wins when his stats reflect that he was an average quarterback for all but 2 playoff runs.
So yeah, and as a Pats fan, not the unfortunate end of that.
You were the victim of all of the best moments of him, and his peaks.
Sure.
But
for
key to the game, though, when we talk about that, John, let's go right into it. For Oklahoma, what is going to be the most important thing for the Sooners in winning this game? As we know, Auburn is running the ball like one of the best teams in the country. What is the thing that Oklahoma's going to have to do to win this game?
Yeah, I mean, it starts there. It's defensive discipline against the run game. They're going to run the read option game. They're going to do a lot of the same things that Oklahoma's trying to do with their wide receivers with Eric Singleton. They're going to try and get him going in the run game as well. It's not just going to be throw it to him. It's going to be get him involved on some jet sweep stuff where they're using the read option to get some misdirection going to try and open up some holes for Jackson Arnold for the Auburn rushing attack. It's very similar, actually. And so much of it's going to be dependent on Oklahoma's defensive discipline. If they're disciplined in their run fits, if they're disciplined in their keys, then that's going to help slow Auburn's rushing attack down. They're going to get hit for a couple plays. That's just going to happen. Auburn's too good up front. They're a good run defense or a good run offense, but minimizing it, not letting them get 5, 6 a pop, hit one for 15, not go on extended drives of 10, 15 plays. That's going to be huge. You've got to be able to put Jackson Arnold into some second and long, third and long situations where he's uncomfortable. Got to win the splash play battle where you're putting Auburn behind the sticks in order to get them throwing the football. And then I think that's when you win defensively.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think Auburn's done a good job on first down for most of the season up to this point. And they've also got multiple 90-yard drives. At this point, they had one against South Alabama. Then I think it was their first scoring drive of the season against Baylor over there in Waco. So I agree with all of that, John. I agree with all of that. And I guess the Auburn side of the point that you made is, can Jackson Arnold continue to consistently make the right decision? That was one of my big questions about Jackson Arnold going into the season. And so far, he surprised me. He's been really consistent in taking care of the football and making the right decision in that RPO game as far as when to give it, when to check, when to take matters into his own hands. He's been a really good runner so far this season, which we knew. We saw what he did against Alabama last year. So to me, yeah, I think that's certainly part of it. And then when Oklahoma has the football, I think a huge key for Auburn is to keep Mateer in the pocket. Obviously, Michigan was able to pressure him some. Auburn's got to be able to pressure him and take advantage of those situations. Keep him in the pocket. Don't let him get outside and then, find somebody deep, because he will find them if these DBs have to cover these Oklahoma playmakers for that long. So can you keep Mateer in the pocket consistently? I think that's the biggest key for the defense.
Let's go back to Auburn. Yeah, got to win up front. It's all about the trenches, and that's the one thing that we've learned about playing in the SEC is truly about the trenches. Back to you, Zach, though, real quick. Jeremiah Cobb, 300 yards rushing this season, so averaging 100 yards a carry, 100 yards a game so far with 6.8 yards per carry. I wish he was 100 yards per carry. That'd been amazing. No, but 100 yards a game. He has been cooking out there in the run game, and of course, Jackson Arnold, even though statistically up to the first 3 games, Thorne has kind of outpaced him in passing yards, but Jackson Arnold's done better in run. But you make this point earlier. Teams aren't even trying to stop the run for some really weird reason. Is it because the expectation is that Auburn's going to throw the ball a lot more and they're underestimating Jackson Arnold's capabilities of running? What do you think that is?
Well, Baylor was clearly a game plan thing. They did not want to get beat deep, and so they just let Auburn run it for 6-7 yards a pop consistently. And Dave Aranda, being a defensive coach, I'm just shocked that he allowed that to happen. Normally, defensive-minded coaches want to take the run away first, which is what you guys were talking about, speculating what Oklahoma might do on Saturday. And then they played Ball State, and they kept guys back because they were playing to not get blown out, which is pretty normal in those types of situations. So, you mentioned Jeremiah Cobb and just, some info for the Oklahoma folks. So Damari Austin was Auburn's starting running back to start the season. He started against Baylor, and in that game, he may have looked like the better back. He's the more complete back for sure. He suffers an injury and was kind of questionable the last 2 weeks. And so Cobb has taken pretty much the entire workload along with Omar Madsen, who's a true freshman. He's actually supposed to be a senior in high school. He reclassified, did the whole thing. And so I think Damari Austin is expected to return. He's expected to come back. And so I think you're going to see a big kind of 1-2 punch. All 3, Jackson Arnold, Damari Austin, Jeremiah Cobb, they all ran the ball 16 times each against Baylor. It was very balanced. I think that's what they're going to try to do, assuming Damari's ready to go and he's full speed for Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I think the difference that's going to be evident for Auburn fans in this one between Baylor and Oklahoma is Oklahoma's got the dudes up front to slow that down. Oklahoma's got arguably one of the best interior defensive line groups in college football with Dominic Williams, Jaden Jackson, David Stone, Grayson Halton. That group right there has just been absolutely dominant the first 3 weeks of the season. Yeah. They've got really good edge play. Even though they're going to be missing R. Mason Thomas for the first half of this game, they're really good at defensive end as well. And so just across the front, Oklahoma's really good. The linebackers have fit well. They had the one kind of missed read on the Justice Haynes run against Michigan where they let him go for 75 yards. You take that run out of the equation, Oklahoma's only allowing, less than 3 yards a carry so far this season. So I think that Oklahoma's going to be able to go into this with just 7 attributed to the box. They're going to look to play 2 safeties deep and not necessarily try to take the throw away, but see if they can win that way where they're not having to drop 6, 7 guys into coverage all the time. See what happens on the outside with their true freshman in Cortland Guillory, who's going to be tested in the biggest way he's ever been tested as a cornerback in his football career against probably Cam Coleman and some Eric Singleton as well. But I think Oklahoma's going to see what they can do against Auburn's rushing attack with just 7 in the box. If they can win that way, then they won't add another. But Brent Venables, he's an aggressive play caller. So you're going to see some zero looks where they have everybody up along the line of scrimmage, mugging the A gaps, and they're going to force Jackson Arnold to try to make the right read there. And that's where Brent Venables is going to try and play some games with Arnold's mind a little bit.
And I do think that's the most lopsided matchup in this game towards Oklahoma's direction, because Brent Venables, the Auburn side of it's been like, oh, well, Jackson Arnold, he's going to know Oklahoma's defense. I'm like, maybe to some extent, but the Oklahoma coaching staff's going to know more about Jackson Arnold than Jackson Arnold's going to know about, what Oklahoma does schematically. Just at that level, you don't learn everything as a quarterback. Really only a handful of the elite NFL quarterbacks are really kind of doing that. So,
and on that point, yes, he knows Oklahoma's defense and he knows what's happened in practice against Oklahoma's defense.
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
Not gone well for him.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. Yeah, for sure. And obviously Brent Venables is coach Jackson. The coach is going to know more than the player at this level of football. That's just going to be the case. So what is Brent Venables going to do to trip up Jackson Arnold? It's a different style of offense. Jackson Arnold has Cam Coleman and Singleton and, other guys to throw to. So it's not the same situation on either side, obviously. But if I had to say, who benefits from the familiarity, it is Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well, and it is different. And Venables even mentioned this in his press conference that Arnold's the same quarterback, but he's in a much better situation because he's with a much healthier team. And he's like, you don't play quarterback by yourself. So he's going into this with a lot of respect for Arnold, knowing that he is a very talented player. And now he's got actually some guys around him that can play. It's not a mass unit playing around him.
Right. That's a very fair point. All right, let's get our final predictions in for this game here on the Locked On College crossover. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than just simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS top safety picks awards than anyone else. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything, but from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you have every move, when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And once again, thank you for making any Locked On podcast your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning in and subscribing to the show. Make sure you go find Zach over there at Locked On Auburn and hear all of his smack talk before this game. And you can also listen to me and John over at Locked On Sooners giving even more smack talk beforehand.
I've been pretty tame this week, actually.
I've been proud of you.
I've been pretty tame this week. I think you
very
guys are more
surprising
smack than I am this week.
I think it's probably going to turn up on Friday, because that's when you're supposed to do it, right before the game. That way people can't really use it against you.
Baylor people just bring it out of you. It's just a whole different thing when it's Baylor. So I don't know.
Yeah, we all hate Baylor in very similar,
that's fine. Sure.
similar firms. All right, final predictions though. This game is going to come down to me to a few possessions. It's going to come down to turnovers. It's going to come down to who actually establishes a run game, because as you mentioned, Zach, John Mateer's game is passing and rushing, and then Oklahoma's trying to figure out who their RB1 is. We'll see if Tory Blaylock can put another 100-yard game in. So let's start with there, man. John, what's your final prediction for this game? What do you think Oklahoma's going to do to win this game?
Yeah, I like Oklahoma 31-17 in this. I think Brent Venables' defense is going to be a little bit too much for Jackson Arnold. They're going to stop the run enough. I mean, Auburn will get some runs going, but it's not going to be a significantly big day for the Auburn rushing attack. And John Mateer, you want to keep him in the pocket, that's fine. He's going to be able to find guys down the field. Again, a much better receiving core than what Oklahoma had last year because guys are healthy. And he's done a lot of really good work in the intermediate middle part of the field. Auburn was susceptible to the pass to Sawyer Robertson. I like Oklahoma to have a big day throwing the football against Auburn's young secondary. And then Tory Blaylock has another strong day for the Oklahoma Sooners. I don't necessarily think he goes for 100 yards, but it's efficient enough to keep Oklahoma on schedule in this one.
Zach.
If all that happens, I don't think your score prediction's wide enough. Just to be honest, I feel like y'all win by more than 2 touchdowns if all that happens. But yeah, I think the only way Auburn doesn't get a running game going is if another slow start happens. Then obviously if Oklahoma kind of jumps on them early and they look up and it's like 14-0 or whatever, I think that's the only way Auburn doesn't really get a running game going. But if they can limit Mateer early, or even if Auburn could start quickly themselves, they have not done that for their first 2 games. They did it against South Alabama, but whatever. Can you do it on the road in Norman? That's what matters. And we'll see what that mentality looks like. There's been this spoken confidence throughout the Auburn program, and Eric Singleton mentioned it in some media availability earlier in the week, that they haven't really rolled out much of their passing attack. Like a lot of that stuff has kind of been kept close to the vest. They're going to they haven't put a lot on film. And like, if you're Auburn, you got to hope that that's true. And you got to hope that you're able to roll that out and, maybe kind of get Oklahoma preparing for something different. We'll see. But I'd be surprised if Auburn didn't get a running game going unless it was, that situation that I just mentioned. I'm going to go lower scoring in general than you guys. I'm going to go 27-24 Oklahoma right now. I started the week a little bit. I think I said 27-17. But I'm getting it closer and closer, and we'll see. Tomorrow's edition of Locked on Auburn, I may switch. We'll see. But I think it's going to be close, and then I think it's going to come down to a big play. Whoever makes the big play in the fourth quarter. And right now, I like Mateer's odds to do that more than Arnold's as we currently have this conversation.
Well, what's interesting there, Zach, is Arnold hasn't turned the ball over. Oklahoma hasn't forced a turnover. Is it the setting for a perfect storm, and we get one of each? We get the ice broken a little bit on the turnover game.
Yeah, I mean, probably, right? I mean, I think both teams are probably going to force turnovers in this one because I think both defenses are pretty good in this one. So we'll see exactly what that looks like. But part of this, and some of the frustration of Auburn fans, I don't know if they're like saying it exactly like this, but some of the questions for Jackson has been holding on to the football a little bit too long. And I think he did a better job of that against South Alabama. But he's not turning the ball over. Like, he's making it like a, concise effort to take care of the football. And I don't think he's going to do as much of the drop back stuff as what they called in the first 2 games. I think it's going to be much more RPO heavy and, running the football heavy. So I don't know. Like, I think they're kind of calling stuff around him to like make sure he doesn't turn the ball over, and almost like being afraid of turning the football over. Some places have labeled him as timid in doing so. I'm not quite ready to commit to that word yet, but there's certainly an argument for it.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I think a lot of people kind of saw out of Jackson Arnold, or kind of feel about him this season, that it's been a little bit of quote unquote timidness with it or whatnot, because there is a player right behind him that everybody thinks, for the most part, could be considerably better in Deuce Knight. Is there a chance that we'll see him on the field in this game if things do not work out? No. Oh, okay.
No. Yeah. For me, like, Jackson, he's got all the tools in the tool belt to be fantastic. Some of it is I don't want to turn the ball over, so I'm not going to throw it. When he's got the dudes on the outside to just throw it to and let them go make a play, for better or for worse. If you get picked off, you get picked off. But you got to give a guy like Cam Coleman a chance. You got to give a guy like Eric
long and you're on your own 40 or whatever, and Cam's on a go route. I'm like, just throw it. Throw it. Okay.
See what happens.
Either he doesn't catch it and we punt, or they catch it and you're still flipping the field. Like,
right. It's a punt.
I bet we see a few of those.
Yeah.
On Saturday.
And so some of the biggest issue last year was kind of situational awareness sometimes, where just trying to do too much with the ball, stuff that's not being designed.
Talking about situational awareness with quarterback. I mean, how about old buddy throwing a pick six against you guys when the game was over? Talk about situational awareness at quarterback. Like, goodness gracious.
Yeah. I mean, so in a sense, that's much better. I mean, you're
so
up.
much better.
You need to just need to hand the ball off, guy. Peyton Thorne's got to hand the ball off. So, and that to me, I think that is a better. Like, Auburn's a better team than what they were last year. Oklahoma's a better team than what they were last year as well.
100%.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with both of you. So I'm gonna get my final prediction. I'm kind of with you, Zach. I think it's gonna be a little bit closer. It's funny if Oklahoma does get 27 points again for 2 years in a row, but I think it's gonna be closer to 28. But I'd say 28, like 21. I think Oklahoma does cover one of the many spreads that's out there. It's been fluctuating between 3.5 and 6.5. We'll see what it looks like on Friday when everybody dumps their actual money on the game.
Just real quick, Jay, one critique with that score prediction is I don't see any world with these defenses where field goals don't play into this. I think
that's
red zone defense is going to be crucial for both these teams, and I think both these teams are likely to get stops in the red zone. So that's part of my thought process.
I can see that. Let's go with 19 to let's go 25 to 19.
The most standard score
18 to 12.
25 to 19. We'll go with something ridiculous in that capacity. Yeah. All right. That's Zach Blackerby from Locked on Auburn.
What a pivot.
John and me from Locked on Sooners. Also, for your next listen, it's also a big moment here on Locked on College Football Fans. Locked On and Fire TV presents College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, and former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local expert. You may see one of us on that episode later today. You never know.
I'm on it.
A college football preview only Locked On can do. So catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. That's John Williams for Zach Blackerby. Thank you for joining us for another crossover edition and fight on the Locked On College Crossover.
Jackson Arnold forever.
Boomer Sooner.